kind of making our own rules in the sense of
Is that the kind of pioneering spirit and stuff like that? Yeah,
absolutely. And so being able to take that pioneering spirit and say, okay, we're gonna throw the rule book out the window. We're gonna do it the way we want to drink it, and that's really how this evolved.
And do you think the American single malt kind of movement is kind of part of that as well? It's like single malt, but how we want to do it.
Creating our identity within a global market, without a doubt.
I'm surprised that it's not there already, that category. I mean, if you've got Japanese single malts, they've been doing it for quite a long time. But,
I suppose it is that.
But so is in America, whiskey's been made for such a long time.
It has, but it's always been predominantly bourbon. I mean, really.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
You know, I think the very first single malt that was produced was in Oregon, was McCarthy's.
Right.
But he was trying to produce something. He was trying to produce basically a Scotch. He has he uses peated grain, peated barley, and that was kind of the first attempt at making a single malt here. But really, it's always been predominantly bourbon. That's what people identify American whiskey as, is bourbon.
Yeah.
So creating that single malt identity, American single malt identity, is one, just key to be able to educate the consumer, and two. It's for me. It's I travel all over the country and I'll see our whiskey on a list, and it'll be under the bourbon section or the rye section, and it's very frustrating because we're just in a different category. I mean, making single malt, that's why it's a higher price point. It's expensive ingredients. Corn is a lot cheaper than barley, especially malted barley.
Right, that's an interesting point. Yeah. Do you think, in terms of educating consumers in the US, like you're talking about people drinking it with Coke and things, do you think there's still quite a lot of work to do on that? For people coming on tours, do you assume that most of them don't know that much about how to appreciate the whiskey?
Exactly, and that's so we try and create an environment where we're educating the consumer, and because most people will come here and assume this is a bourbon unless they already know.
Okay.
They're just they assume it's a bourbon because that's what American whiskey is for the most part, and trying to wrap their minds around it. I mean, you can I've given tours where I've repeated American single malt whiskey the whole time, all the way through.
Yes.
Single malt, and at the end, I'll still have somebody come up and say, "Wow, this is a really great bourbon."
Yeah.
So it depends on how much people are paying attention, but I'll say it over and over it just sits in their mind. American single malt. So I try and use the terminology over and over when I'm presenting, so that it just sticks. Because I think it's such a unique concept that people have to hear it over and over to really let it sink in sometimes.
Yeah. Just on, so looking at it from a complete outsider's point of view, because we've obviously coming from the outside, I'm quite intrigued about the lifestyle that Stranahan's represents. And we've only been here for a few days, but we've heard about some kind of cowboy type stuff and also like outdoors lifestyle. But to get that sort of looking at when the brand goes more global,
right?
We'd like to make sure that the lifestyle that's represented by the brand is accurate and it's not touristy or cheesy, or you know what I mean.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I'd like to get a bit of a kind of view from you as to what is this sort of Colorado lifestyle in reality, and and what do people aspire to?
I feel like we've been a little pigeonholed into the cowboy thing.
Yes.
I feel like it's too pigeonholed.
Yeah.
Because we're just yes, there are certainly cowboys out here. I ride. I've got kind of a little bit of a cowboy background, but I feel it's more of a lifestyle experience and a spirit of adventure, a spirit of exploration. People are here in Colorado. They're mountain biking, they're swimming, they're stand-up paddleboarding, they're skiing, they're snowboarding. There are so many things about Colorado that people why we live here, because you just have a playground in your background in your backyard, and we're very much a mountain whiskey. We were created in the mountains. That's where it started. We're very much have an identity with the Rocky Mountains, and so it's more than just. I think it kind of started because Jess, when he's on the road, he wears his big cowboy hat and he has a buckskin jacket, and so there's been that identity, but I feel like it's too pigeonholed there, because we're not just a cowboy whiskey. We're an adventurous whiskey. We are, people will climb 14,000-foot peaks with a bottle of Stranahan's and take a picture at the top of it.
Oh, really?
Especially, I name every snowflake after a 14,000-foot peak. We have 52 of them in Colorado.
Right. Okay.
And every, I always name it after a different 14,000-foot peak. And so a lot of people will buy the snowflake and go up to the top of the mountain and take a picture at the top with that bottle. And
how many of those peaks did you say there were?
52.
52.
It's over 15,000.
14,000.
14.
Yep, 14,000-foot peaks. And really, there's an adventurous outdoors experience. People, if it's nice out, people are outside. If it's not nice out, people are outside. And just
a bit like Scots, really.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. I loved it. I loved it in Scotland.
When were you there?
I was there last September.
Oh, right.
So
Okay.
a year ago this month.
Recently,
So it was.
And what was you were over promoting Stranahan's?
I say again.
Were you over learning or promoting Stranahan's?
Not in Scotland, but I was. We were filming a segment with the Daily Beast over in Ireland, and so I went over early, took some vacation time, and I went. My friend lives in the UK. She lives in Gloucester. And she's from here, but she married a gentleman from there, and so she doesn't drink that much, so she drove.
So
I had a designated driver, and so we did a tour all the way up through. Of course, went to Dewars because I was right outside of Edinburgh, and
we did that.
And what I found was that I was comparing the tours that we went on and the tours that we have here, and I feel like we were right on par. I feel like
the things you're saying are similar.
Right, very similar. It's very people are very interactive. We encourage people to take photos, and I felt like we were really on par with some of these larger brands that are international.
You went to Dewars at Aberfeldy?
Yes, I can't remember the other one. The other one was associated with Talisker and Lagavulin 16, which I really love.
You went over to Skye?
I did not, but there was a distillery that was associated with them. I'm trying to remember. I have the photos, but I'm trying to remember what it was. And then I went to Dalmore, above Inverness, and then stayed down on Loch Ness, which was a beautiful lake.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's gorgeous.
And
just I'm Colorado mountain boy. I'm from here. I'm Colorado native, so I love the Rockies. Excuse me. And just seeing a different part of the world. I've traveled all over the world. Done a lot of motorcycle treks internationally, and just so impressed with the culture in Scotland. I just love it.
Good. Good. That's a good thing.
And then flew from there over to Ireland. I went from Dublin up to Belfast, and then up to Bushmills, and we did the Daily Beast film shoot there. Yeah. So we filmed there, and we also filmed here to show the origin of single malt whiskey. Yeah. Here's a distillery that's been around for over 400 years, and that's where single malt is. Kind of originated in those areas, and then coming back to American single malt, which just really kind of started in the early 2000s. So it's very young as a category, but at the same time, it doesn't mean it's not, that it doesn't have that depth or that quality. It does compare.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
And if money wasn't an issue, what would your recommendations be to improve the Stranahan's experience here?
I honestly feel having a restaurant, and I have a friend who is he was the season 5 Top Chef winner, Chef Hosea Rosenberg. He's a good friend of mine. Has his own restaurant down in Boulder. I've talked to him about it before. I said, if we ever wanted to, open up a restaurant here, would you be interested? He said, absolutely. So I really feel like having an experience, because when we first moved into this building in 2009, we moved from the old location to this location.